All right, everyone, we are live. Let's make sure that's actually the case. Cross-platform, of course, we have to refresh on Rumble. By the way, to those of you watching on YouTube, I will reiterate this. We are still in a friendly competition to 110,000 subscribers on Rumble with InfoWars. So do please take the referral link that is pinned at the top of chat. It's also in the description. If you're on Rumble, I would recommend that you share out the channel to as many of your friends and family as possible. Again, a friendly competition with InfoWars for 110,000 subscribers. This morning, we hit 109,000. They are still ahead of us, but we've definitely narrowed the gap by 400 or 500 subscribers overnight. So we are pretty close to our clankdom goals. And to celebrate, it's time to clank. Yes, indeed. I did brew coffee. And it's perfect. Puro, by the way. Can't remember exactly where the company is sourced from. Best instant coffee that you're going to get. Normally, I like it French pressed, but I don't have a French press. Should probably get one of those. Via Red, Fwabadubading Dong. Okay. Very interesting commentary there. I appreciate it anyway. Let's make sure we're actually live on Rumble here. Just a second. And of course, I've got my co-host, my non-caffeinated co-host at the moment. So yeah, get on to Rumble because we are still in that friendly competition. We're also getting within a few thousand subscribers of Jimmy Dore's show. So to be clear, we're hyper competitive on the platform, as well as all others. We have, meanwhile, abandoned Pixel Planet at the moment. I'm no longer doing European campaigns because I got too many fucking messages from people leading factions there. So that's the reason there's no Pixel Planet updates. That and the fact that making that third video each day was really fucking with the algorithm. So people were getting fewer notifications, etc., because fewer people watch those videos. YouTube's algorithms are a little bit distorted. You may have noticed. P. Deetle, good morning, Sticks. Woke up super black-pilled. Even when the GOP takes the House and if Trump wins in 24, the Dems have done so much damage. The border, for example. How do we build a wall when we have no money? Well, you can just print money out of thin air to build the wall. It's basically what they did before. Drennan, I miss your garden update videos. Don't worry. In the future, there will probably be a lot of those. And they'll be more impressive. But you have to be patient. Patience is a virtue. Anyway, just a sec. Let me make sure all of my tabs are actually open and ready to go so that I don't say, oh, fuck. Yeah, give me 5 minutes, everyone. Mute. Rather not do that. Already almost 1,000 people watching. Most of the population's not even awake yet in the United States. Of course, it is Sunday. It's the Lord's Day. Praise the Lord. Some people are in church right now or, doing a pagan ritual maybe. Yeah. Oh, it is perfect. When you do it perfectly, just the right amount of milk, just the right amount of sugar, just a very small amount. I don't really like sweet coffee. Clank. Everyone is clanking away. I'm bringing back clanking. We're retro now, as you can see from my robe. Anyway, we'll launch right into the news really quickly here. FedEx warns of a global recession, cutting sales forecast by $500 million. Oh, wonderful. It's FedEx. New York, CNN Business. FedEx warned that a global recession could be coming as demand for packages around the world tumbles. People are buying less. This was predictable. Who was it who pointed this out 3 or 4 months ago that this was coming, by the way? Shares of FedEx plunged 21% Friday, the biggest one-day drop in its history, after the company warned late Thursday that a slowing economy will cause it to fall $500 million short of its revenue target. The weakening global economy, particularly in Asia and Europe, has hurt FedEx's express delivery business. The company said demand for packages weakened considerably in the final weeks of the quarter. Yeah, so Q3 is probably not looking up, just to be clear. A third consecutive quarter of negative growth, and FedEx is a US-based firm, is not going to be pretty. You also have now rising unemployment. I don't know if we have new unemployment numbers for the prior month yet. My belief is that it'll probably be sharply negative. That is that unemployment will have risen by 0.2, maybe 0.3. That's a problem because what that gives you is a recession plus stagflation in the United States. With Europe, you're looking at a general recession. It's being warned about by virtually every major prognosticator, banks, corporations, people in government and finance, etc. They're virtually all of them believe that there will be a recession. For the US public, which is most of my audience, what this means is that the Europeans aren't going to buy as much of the United States shit because there's not going to be the demand. There's not going to be as much money. And so that's going to cause a spiraling reaction. Asian markets are down. They're having problems. China's going to have a huge fucking problem because who's going to buy its exports? If the demand dries up and they have a massive amount of influence over your imported market, they're going to disproportionately suffer. China will probably enter a recession too. We're talking about a global recession, so something along the lines of the Great Recession. Probably not as protracted or deep, but nonetheless pretty bad. And it will be the result of lockdownerism mainly, partially the result of globalism, and partially the result of big economies like China and the US just doing stupid shit. So Bidenomics, Chinanomics, you could call them, I suppose, falling well short of expectations. Opinionated Junkie, can you keep your house during the housing crisis? Yeah, that won't be a problem for me. It'll be a problem for many people, though. And that's the other problem, is that you do have a housing bubble currently destabilizing, I would say. It's going to be a really goddamn big problem for millions and millions of people in the United States. If you think that things are bad under Biden's economy now, just, I would say, wait 3 or 4 months. You might not even have to wait that long. And with regards to these things, they're so self-evident that it's like it's not even really a prognostication. It's not even a prediction that I'm making. It's just a statement of fact. It's going to get worse. Hate to tell people, I warned them. I warned people that if they voted for Biden, this would happen. And it's not just the United States, it's the whole globe. That means it'll be more prolonged because everyone has to reset everything. By the way, the cats are zooming around a lot today. It's a little bit too chilly to have the back door open so that they can go out into the garden. Not that Yana would, but Farah here, for some reason, likes to go out in the rain, but she's not allowed because it's too cold outside. So they're getting a little bit rambunctious at the moment. Whoops. So yeah, global recession is coming. I've been predicting this since before Biden was even elected, that if that happened, that would be the case. Basically, just look at Krugman, and he said there would be a boom under Biden, the same as he thought that there'd be a Great Depression if Trump was elected. Always bet against Paul Krugman. He's been wrong about virtually everything, despite being a Nobel Prize-winning economist, because he doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. He's living as though it's 1985 still. He was the one who famously predicted that the internet wouldn't be a really big thing. It would be basically like another fax machine. So always vote against Paul Krugman. Cold Summer 91. Does this mean Social Security will run out sooner than the mid-30s? They're always primed to declare that it's going to run out of money so they can pump more money into it, rob people more, and then give them peanuts in return. Social Security is a scam, but it's not socialism. You pay in and then you draw out. The problem is what you're drawing out has been inflated over time, and it's worth far less than what you paid in. The actual purchasing power of what you get out of Social Security is bullshit, and it should be done away with. There should be at least an opt-out for people to not participate. The thing is that they don't want to do that because every reasonable person, which would drag that paradigm towards the upper incomes, more educated classes, it correlates with the gaining of wealth, none of them would use it. And so it would be insolvent immediately. Robot Trucker. South Africa is going 8 hours without power a day. Yeah, basically it's like living in North Korea. Interesting how hyper-centralization always leads to the same thing. Not a banned account. To fight recession, we need more taxes and layoffs. Yeah, I mean, they're literally trying to cause unemployment by hampering the economy at the Fed. And Biden has plausible deniability, therefore, when it fails, when they don't have a soft landing, when you get stagflationary conditions, because inflation is still technically rising year over year. It's just fudge numbers, basically, that nobody understands unless they studied statistics and economics like I did. The problem is that Joe Biden will point back to his speech, I think it was in May, or was it April, somewhere around there. And he said that when he was queried by the press corps, my idea about how to solve inflation is to let the Fed do its job. Well, they're doing their job. They're also acting largely under your particular economic orders, but you'll throw them under the bus and probably fire the head of the Fed for accidentally fucking the economy sideways. The Atlas report. I can't give you a dono. I've only got $5 left in my bank account. Esteban Ocasio. Hey, Sticks, I saw a video from Forbes on YouTube about Ron DeSantis responding to questions about the red flag law that was signed. Thought you would like to watch it. I oppose red flag laws and every other unconstitutional impediment to the Second Amendment. Yeah, that was the Rocket Cat. I'll make a whole song about that shit. Kevin Street, I just watched your first video from this morning. The deep state really fears Apu, Pepe's autistic son. Don't let your memes be dreams. Not a band account. What voice range does Stolas have? Tenor, bass, railroad like. It sounds like a steam train, actually, sort of. And this is literal. By the way, to people that don't recognize this, I did have an interaction with what you would call a demon when I was a child. And it has informed many things in my life, my literature, upcoming deals of a very lucrative nature, by the way. And it is real. The occult is absolutely real. And the entity does actually exist. Don't deem it a demon per se, because, of course, I don't believe in Christian demonology. But yeah, as an aside, Miku 4X Spot, Orange Glumph actually had a small rally. Yeah, a small rally of 5,000 to 10,000 people. They seem to be repeating that line a lot. I remember back in the election, Beto was running as well, when they tried to claim that Beto O'Rourke's El Paso rally had more people at it than Trump's rally. And they took very cherry-picked photos of like several hours before Trump arrived and said, haha, the seats are half empty. And then they took a very wide panned view of the Beto rally. I mean, a very close-in shot of the Beto rally and said, well, there must be like 12,000 people here. Now, they took a wide shot from the stage itself, and there were maybe 1,500 to 2,000 people at the Beto rally. If you look at when Trump actually arrived at his competing rally, there were over 10,000. But they portrayed it as though it was the exact opposite. Lies and shenanigans. Not a banned account. Biden health survived to 2024. Thoughts and prayers. Yeah, everyone's hoping that he makes it. Like, there's never going to be an assassination attempt against him because the alternative is Kamala Harris. So it's basically like a life insurance policy for him. Wickd 1969. Regarding my one-of-a-kind Black Sabbath 7-inch 1969 demo mentioned yesterday, please see the PMs that I sent you on Gab yesterday at 7:54 and 8:07 Pacific. I think you may find it interesting. I'll take a look. I never really check my Gab messages, but I'll make an exception. I'm a song. If one of your cats received a prosthetic limb, would that be considered a faux pas? I'm the one that's the dad. I'm supposed to make the dad jokes here. God damn it. Mad Anthony Wayne. Good morning. Rather than end Pixel Planet, can we move the updates to Twitter? Clankdom has grown and there is a robust following. Clank. Yeah, I mean, I'll tweet about it, but I'm not going to make the videos about Pixel Planet at this point. We're returning to Africa, to our homeland on Pixel Planet, and just destroying the giant swastikas that are there and taking over and consolidating the whole continent. Josh Pililo for the Spoon Clank. Rex Skittles, Sticks, if you're no longer a Satanist, why the 666? Because it comes in very useful. Because people who don't understand the occult, who don't understand anything about me, they're newcomers and they're religious, but they think I'm a conservative, they'll go bye-bye. They'll stay away from the channel because they're not going to like what they see. I'd rather not deal with all of their bullshit. Silver Kestrel, talking of Stolas, have you seen Hell of a Boss Season 2, Episode 1? I actually haven't gotten a chance to watch that yet, but it's on my docket. Not a banned account. My cat tires of salmon, cod, tuna. Suggestions? Ours will only eat salmon for the most part, unless it's mushy food. They like lamb if it's the mushy food. Anyway, so yeah, there is a global recession coming. It's being warned of by more and more sources. And these are the ones that are reluctant to say that there's going to be an economic problem. They want to tell their shareholders everything's hunky-dory. Don't worry, we're expecting 5% above what we expected for the year's income. So don't worry, your investments are safe, and maybe you should even invest more before the price of our stock rises. That's what every company wants to tell people. When they tell you, yeah, we're going to fall $500 million short, we're really sorry about that. Please don't punish us too much. That's not good news. Battle Elf, did the demon steal your sugar sticks? No. Gave me a lot of talent and some good progress in my work. Stix's very first batch of lentil soup. I came out exquisite. Yes, I made lentil soup, French style, the other day, and it was good. I'm not going to humble brag here. I'm just going to brag. I make damn good lentil soup. It's not as good as Liz's, but it's a different recipe. Mine was more tomatoey, and of course had bacon added to it, which is good. It gives it a smoky flavor that I liked. Hers is more of the standard kind, and I like hers better. So I definitely need to get like her recipe for lentil soup and like sort of adapt it, but it was good. Opinionated Junkie, how to survive the housing crisis. Save up as much as you can, buy as little as possible, and try to become self-sufficient. Learn how to grow food, dude. Not a band account. The Ramsey Show says Jesus can save the economy. Yeah, I'd like to see that happen. I think if Jesus exists and, is up there in the clouds looking down on America, I think he's shaking his head sadly and just saying, fuck it. I'll side with the Croatians or something. I don't think he gives a fuck about the U.S. economy. Cold Summer 91, best tips on surviving the recession. Learn to make do with less. If you can't increase the amount that you're making, you're going to have to cut corners and decrease the amount that you're spending. For example, let's say you cook a bunch of bacon. Save the grease. Use it in the cooking. You can use it over and over, sort of clarify it and filter it out. Save the fucking bacon grease. Your great grandma certainly did. Do that with everything, anytime that you possibly can. Learn how to use gray water systems. For example, you wash your hands. Water goes down the drain. Well, wash your hands into a basin and then you put it in your plants or something like that. Limit the amount of water waste. We've become decadent and weak. Our great-grandparents were not. P-Day, predictions on where the shipping the migrants to liberal states will go. DeSantis is doubling down and claiming he's going to keep doing it, and so is Greg Abbott. So there'll be more fun to come. Not a band account. In a socialist revolution, who actually survives? The people that engineered the revolution behind the scenes and are not actually part of the proletariat. Inevitably, the people who come out on top. Just look at Joseph Stalin. Next story. Biden White House just put out a framework on regulating crypto. Here's what's in it. To be clear, it's the establishment of a government-centric crypto system and more regulations. Now, nothing that I'm about to say is fiscal advice. I'm not giving you investment advice. I'm not giving you accounting advice, etc. Disclaimer officially here. I hold crypto. I hold Bitcoin. I hold Ethereum. I've got Litecoin. I've got others. Quite a bit of crypto. I think near $20,000 worth of cryptocurrency. And that's down massively, of course, since its peak. The initial gut reaction looking at this is, oh God, the government's going to ruin cryptocurrency. It's going to zero. That's it. It's just going to be a digital dollar system, which means that it'll have parity with the US dollar. It'll be digitized. It'll be linked to banks and shit. But all these other cryptos are going to zero, so fuck it, and people are dumping. That's, in my opinion, what they want people to believe. They want people to get out of the market so that the heavy hitters can continue whaling it up, as they have been for several years, including when the prices go up, they're still buying in. Prices go way down, they don't give a shit. They're still buying in. But they don't want you and me to have cryptocurrency because they understand, and this is something that I've spoken of several times over the last almost half decade. Right now, cryptocurrency is not usable for the everyday purchase. It's used by a handful of banks, a handful of processors, a handful of corporations. PayPal dabbles in it, Bank of America, and a few others. For the most part, though, 99% of the population knows nothing about crypto, holds no crypto, and doesn't want to use crypto. What this does is it gives an insurance, so to speak, to big corporations to buy into something that will then rise up. It will be a digital currency. It'll have parity, I mean, exchange capabilities with Bitcoin. Bitcoin's a big one. It's not going anywhere, in my opinion. Ethereum, again, big one, not going anywhere. Some of the shit coins might get shit canned. Some altcoins may falter. Various cryptocurrencies will rise or fall. The big boys, I think, are here to stay, and they'll be part of that system. When you tell the banks, don't worry, we're going to regulate crypto to make sure that if you invest $1 billion, you're not going to lose everything, that's a key to them to buy in. And so if this ends up going forward, cryptocurrency becomes, in my opinion, massively more valuable, especially Bitcoin. There's a limited amount of it that can exist. It can only be deflated effectively for its value, because all you can do is parse it up into smaller parcels in order to use it. If, therefore, it maintains a transactionability with the US dollar, it can't go anywhere but up, in my opinion. That impacts the price of other usable coins for other transactions, such as Ethereum. I would say that's the big one. And so I think that it'll go up. And if it does fail, now let's say that Biden's crypto regulations fall flat, nobody wants it, it'll still rise, because then crypto will be adopted by more independent minds for independent purposes, knowing that the government has at least temporarily butted out of the crypto market. I almost killed that fly, but I think I just injured it. Whoops. Anyway, by the way, I made a video, God, how many fucking years ago was it at this point, about this topic. The foreshock of this, and I predicted it at the time, was when Facebook got together with a bunch of banks and big corporations to try to make a crypto. And the government almost immediately reacted and insinuated that it was a bad idea. They effectively told Zuckerberg, sit down, stay out of this. Don't make your private crypto. Don't make a Facebook crypto coin. I think it was called Libra coin or something like that at the time. And half the corporations immediately withdrew from the potential deal based on the government telling him that. When that happened, it was clear that the government didn't want corporations that it already works with and co-ops to run a crypto scheme, because it wanted to do it itself. The government wants to get in on the concept of a digital currency. It has massive benefits for the government. They can track sales and transactions much more easily than with paper money. They can maybe go after dissenters a little more easily. If I have $1,000 in my pocket, I can go to a store, and unless the store owner kicks me out or something, I can go and buy what I want to buy. If there is a digital currency, that store may have been alerted, hey, your social credit score is a little bit too low. Hey, we only cater to people whose social credit score is 700 or above. You're at 650 or 666 in my case. You're not allowed to shop here anymore. I'm sorry, we can't accept it. It's too great a risk. The pink-haired freaks may come and protest us. This is what they want. They want to enslave people using what was originally a very good idea, which is crypto in general. They want to warp it and undermine its basic functionality, undermine the very principle behind crypto, in order to have a government-centric minted currency that simply happens to be zeros and ones in a server instead of zeros and ones printed on a piece of paper. That's what they want. They'll also try to tie this in with climate change. You watch, you're already beginning to see foreshocks of that. Whether or not, though, the deal goes forward, I'm still very bullish on crypto. I think that it rises substantially over the next couple of years. And I have the capability of maintaining that investment and riding it out and seeing what happens. Westfield 90. 1K stock market drops last month were hardly reported by the MSM. Economic collapse after election does nothing if media convince people the economy is good and Dems still get votes. I don't think the average person believes the economy is good in the United States. They go to the store and they get sticker shock. They go to get gas and they get sticker shock. Jesus, I honestly don't give a fuck anymore. Polyfrog, do you think we're headed towards total economic collapse? 42% of UK companies have filed for bankruptcy. Germany reduced production. German companies are going under as well. Thoughts? Yeah, I mean, this was predictable. When you lock down the whole world economy for an extended period, you put new onerous regulations on businesses, and then you hyper-tax corporations. No shit, that's exactly what happens. They're angling into a situation where they're trying to cause enough pain so that all the small businesses are gone and they can directly subsidize people with welfare, and big corporations with windfall taxes will pay for it. In the end, though, it won't matter to those corporations because they give grants by taxpayer money back to them. So they're not going to give a shit. They're trying to establish what is basically just shy of the Chinese communist system. We must stop them. Aliza, right now, I am writing an article to discourage people who think it is cool to vote Libertarian Party. Please recommend strong arguments. I am a libertarian. I would say that if you have a close election, I would vote for, at this point, the Republican candidate. If, though, you have no closeness in the race, if it's beyond 10 points, double-digit range, you use your vote on the Libertarian Party. Absolutely. They're better under the Mises Caucus than they were under the Gary Johnsonites. Adherent of Lady Columbia, should the online commentary community in the next 5 to 10 years give the notion of banning the U.S. Federal Reserve to not ban physical currency? I don't know exactly what you're asking there. I think getting rid of the Federal Reserve is a good idea, though. Not a banned account. Chances the U.S. federal government forces gold buyout again. Very, very low. I don't think that they're worried about solid metal investments. They're worried about zeros and ones in a server. Kick the ball. I'm buying more stuff like wool underwear. Not a bad investment, although a little bit itchy. Esteban Ocasio. Hey, Sticks, who do you think has the most positive influence in American history? Hope you and the family are doing good. Most positive influence overall of any American? I can't really give an answer. There are too many possible candidates. Thomas Jefferson would definitely be up there. We wouldn't be where we are today if it weren't for him. I mean, in the positive way. Battle Elf, what was the demon's name? Stolas, from the Ars Gotia. Mad Dog, hey Sticks, I've firsted on 500 to 1,000 of your vids. I'm a libertarian sheriff candidate, a band musical artist, and trying to get on the Tim Show. Would you join me for an episode? Sleazy P. Martini says he is on board as well. That sounds cool. Yeah, I mean, if you work something out with Tim regarding that, but I have to be physically back in the U.S. Rex Skittles, your pickup prediction numbers for House and Senate. I predict at this moment, if the election were held right now, Republicans pick up 35 House seats, overwhelmingly retaking the House, and 2 Senate seats. They also pick up a couple of gubernatorial slots, namely Georgia. And basically, it is a red wave. It's not as big as it could be, but it would be fairly significant. Don't be fooled by all of the bullshit jargon that you see in the legacy media. Two Gun Jr., I keep seeing Patriot Front signs in small towns in north central Arkansas. Interestingly, it has a hammer and pickaxe on it. Makes me think communist ties on top of glowing in the dark. Thoughts? So it's a hammer and pickaxe, not a hammer and sickle. That would be, in my, I believe, Nazbols, National Bolsheviks. So probably co-opting. The Grizzly. What's your over-under on the crypto social score going through? Would the Senate block it or the midterms happen before the deal? Would the MAGA canister successfully kill the deal? Well, this is the sort of thing that's going to be locked in committee for years. So it's not going to happen anytime soon. The hope is that it falls short and it ends up like the Real ID system, where it's never been fully implemented since it was suggested under the Bush administration, and they've never really fully administered it. So the hope is that it sort of dies in committee. Shaveen, what might the housing market look like in the coming months? Currently looking at a plot of land in my area. I think that the prices will begin to collapse as recession begins. I think we're about to go into a great recession-style tailspin. I can't give you official investing advice, though. I can't tell you, for instance, that you should wait until after that happens to buy the land for half as much. It might not be available. I can't give you any official advice at all legally. Hate having to say that, by the way. Adherent of Lady Columbia, what I mean is to try to ban the federal government from abandoning physical money, thereby always having physical fiat available. I don't think they want to get rid of the physical fiat. I just think that they want a digital alternative. And people will naturally gravitate towards that because most people would rather do that and just put their card next to the reader or press a button on their phone as opposed to carrying around the actual cash. It's stupid. It won't work in small town and rural America, but urban America will end up looking like the Netherlands. You should see when I go to the store and I pay attention to these things. I have to. The majority of people, unless they are elderly, do not use cash money in the Netherlands. And this is the case in rural areas as well as urban areas. It doesn't matter if you're just in Amsterdam. Here in Enschede, which is a smaller city, the same holds true. Even when we were in Friesland, in a tiny town called Franeker, it was still what was happening. You see a little bit more cash usage, but not nearly as much. Now, it is technically apples to oranges. The Netherlands is densely populated. It's a very small country with a relatively high density, a lot of infrastructure, a huge amount of banking. It's one of the banking muscles of the world. It's not the same as even most urban areas within the US, but it will become popular. Most people in the end will end up using digital currency. They're screwing themselves by doing so, but they will. Not a bad account. Have you accepted Christ as your Lord and Savior? Yeah, I did that back when I was a teenager, but I sort of went back and lapsed on that one. Woods Precision Arms, Stixstradamus. Miku 4Xbot, eat the rich too. No, don't import to Martha's, lol. Yeah, the Martha's Vineyard NIMBYists are definitely still the flavor of the day news story, but we're covering other things. Mad Dog, thoughts on first posting? Useless or just passe? I don't like it when people try to claim the first post on my videos, but I don't do anything about it because, yeah, it amuses some people. A Cruel over on Rumble. Saw a video on BitChute that is really good news if true. Liz Truss is firing civil service government employees, which are really just political apparatchiks. Same with what Trump says he will do. Good. Now, she's starting off her prime ministership with a bang. Battle Elf, did you summon the demon or did he just show up? The latter, in my case. Void Vector, I think if they have the power to centralize a cryptocurrency, it will only be a matter of time before they decide it's their duty to manipulate it. Yeah, and there really is a problem. What are you doing, kitty cat? Where even are you? I don't know what's going on down here, but I don't like it. Whatever. Anyway, the cat's fucking around behind me. Where are you? You're distracting me. You're distracting thousands of people from the show. Shame on you. If broke fix, do you think we need another great Calvinist religious settlement? No, I'm not a Calvinist. Cold Summer 91, do you think they might return to the gold standard? That would be a terrible idea. On this, I will deviate from every ANCAP. Their desire to have a gold-backed currency makes no sense when you realize that the value of gold can easily be manipulated by foreign entities. Now, if you're trying to get away from a fiat because the idea is that a domestic entity is manipulating it, changing the value to the benefit of the donor class, why would you want to have a currency that's based on a precious metal that can be manipulated by another country like the Chinese or the Russians or something like that? Ultimately, it doesn't make any sense. Esteban Ocasio, do you think the Dems will actually consider Newsom for president? They might be crazy enough to do that, actually. Not going to put it past them. Next news story. Breaking, Mike Pompeo tells Chicago crowd he's prepping for a 2024 presidential run. We've got a team in Iowa, a team in New Hampshire, and South Carolina. And that's not random. We are doing the things one would do to get ready. As I explained this morning, there's some wiggle room within this statement. Pompeo effectively came out and said, if we think that it would be to the benefit of the United States, we'll go in that direction. So towards the 2024 candidacy. I think it's based partially on whether Trump runs. If Donald Trump does run, and there's a 90% chance that he does, probably greater than 90%, given his statements the other day. I think that Pompeo, if he steps in at all, it's just to sell books. I don't think that looking at the poll numbers, he thinks that he can actually win. He'd be crazy if he did. And crazy people shouldn't be elected. Just look at what Joe Biden's doing to the economy right now if you need proof of why. Hi, Sim and I. Happy Clank. Thank you. But yeah, what I think is that Mike Pompeo, if Trump is absent, so he doesn't run, he's running from a jail cell as all the liberals want to happen. They would be very, very happy about this. I think Pompeo gets in, but he doesn't expect to win. In the absence of Trump, it's DeSantis to lose, effectively, unless Rand gets in, possibly Ted Cruz, who I would not support, Rand, who I would definitely fucking support. If Trump doesn't get in, I'm all in for Rand Paul for 2024. And I would beg my subscribers to back him as well. Imagine Rand DeSantis. You could definitely do a lot worse than that ticket. Or you can get Kristi Noem in there, Carrie Lake, somebody like that. I know she's just barely entering politics in the gubernatorial sense. She is a firebrand, though. Probably do a good job. I think that Mike Pompeo is just trying to get attention because he realizes it's lucrative. And understand the framing of his particular comments here. He was at a charity dinner for veterans. If you're going to set yourself up as an also-ran who makes mainly their money in grifting a little bit off the top, raising money for charity, and you get paid, you know, to go make a speech or something to raise money or whatever, this is the way to do it within the GOP. Veterans, evangelical causes, things like that, or guns, things like that. If he were a Democrat, he'd probably have given this speech at an environmental awareness group, a committee meeting, or something like that. You know, a meeting of feminists or something. And he'd say, well, I'm ashamed that I was born with a penis. I do really apologize for this. Pompeo's in it for the money. They raised $6.8 million, by the way, for the charity. So, I mean, you can't fault him for that. Lizard Party. Me and my lizard listening, drinking coffee. Thank you. Yeah, Puro is the best coffee. I've got to order more, though, because every time somebody comes over, of course, in Dutch culture, you know, you offer them coffee, tea, etc. So I'm getting low on my sleeves of Puro. I'm getting very scared. I might run out. Nick Santini, it's really useless bringing religion into the situation we are in. We as a nation need to become more realistic for focusing on our economy. Yeah, I wish the Republicans would refocus more heavily on the economy right now. Immigration's not a bad side issue, but you do realize that every time that somebody goes to the gas pump, they're more hesitant to vote for Joe Biden. You should really be ramming that home. Killian White. Nevada is looking like a solid flip for the Republicans in November in regards to both the Senate and gubernatorial races. Laxalt and Lombardo lead. Yeah, depending on the poll. Nevada is definitely in play, which should, by the way, terrify the Democrats, because Nevada is one of those states, much like Texas, that had been becoming more blue over time. Arizona, another good example. I have foreseen that reversing based on Hispanic voting trends, and we will be talking about that separately, by the way. Demonstrous, $10, no comment, thank you. Westfield 90, with the economy, crime, border, homeless, why are people still not blaming the Dems? In LA, Bass is a shoo-in for mayor, and Gascon recall failed. People this dumb? Well, it depends on the part of the country. Some of them are rock solidly partisan for Republicans or Democrats. There were people that continued to vote for George W. He won re-election, even though he had fucked up everything in his presidency. Same is true for Joe Biden. Not a bad account. Where to buy 9 energy drinks online for the USA? I don't actually know, to tell the truth. I'm here in the Netherlands where they're actually manufactured. In fact, what city are they made in? Vechel, I guess. I don't know where that is. No clue. Lance Corporal Veteran. Prepper communities should understand economic systems behind gold and silver-backed currencies. They would stop hoping for such a future market. Yeah, fiat is actually a good idea for a medium of exchange because the piece of paper itself is virtually worthless. And if it's not virtually worthless, then you know that your economy is shitty, like in Venezuela. People using it for toilet paper or kindling. Next news story. Let's call DeSantis migrant stunt what it is. Kidnapping. It's a crime to dupe somebody and then ship them across state lines, and it's time to hold GOP governors accountable for doing just that. Interesting, because Abbott and the people in Arizona have been doing this now for the better part of a year. You were angry at it for that period of time. But when DeSantis sent them to Martha's Vineyard, where all of your wealthy, ultra-liberal donors are, then shit hits the fan. Before, it was unethical. It was nasty. You're mistreating these poor migrants, really illegals mostly. Most of them are not asylum seekers. They're not duly in the country for any legal purpose. It was mean. It was wrong. It was un-Jesus-like, in other words. It was very funny to see religion brought into that argument by the Democratic Party, actually, on multiple levels. But when DeSantis does it to Martha's Vineyard, to a bunch of NIMBYist liberal millionaires, all of a sudden it's kidnapping. We've gone beyond human trafficking. It's now literally kidnapping. He fooled them. He told them he was sending them to the promised land. I would point out, as I have for days now, Joe Biden has been doing exactly the goddamn same thing for a year and a half. Barack Obama did the same thing for the better part of a half a decade, especially during his second term. Both of these others were busing and flying migrants around in the dead of night, most of which are not asylum seekers. They are economic migrants illegally in the United States, protected in some cases under the DREAM Act, which magically, inexplicably, despite being executive level, was never actually repealed because the court said that Trump lacked the capability to do so. It's interesting how an executive is no longer capable of exerting executive privilege if a bunch of people might be hazarded, even if they're in your country illegally. DeSantis migrant stunt is a stunt. I agree completely with the fucking leftoids that wrote this article. Of course it's a political stunt, but not for the reasons that you think. He's trying to use this as an example of NIMBYism, and he's right to do so. The people at Martha's Vineyard lasted less than 48 hours before they called on the National Guard to get these people out and get them elsewhere. They all lined up, smiling and cheering, and there's a great picture of this, all looking like Karens. They're all white and clearly rich, and cheering and laughing and finding it hilarious that these people were sent to slightly less pricey Cape Cod, where they can be held by the military for an extended period of time. But this has already been done over and goddamn over since the beginning of the Obama administration. So why is it all of a sudden kidnapping? Why is it different when a governor does it with taxpayer money than if the president does it with taxpayer money? Who fucking authorized it? It's called discretionary spending for a reason. They're querying whether he should be investigated for the misuse of taxpayer dollars to do this. There's nothing in the budget that says he's allowed. Discretionary spending. You give it to the Pentagon. This is, by the way, how Donald Trump's wall pieces were built. Discretionary military spending given to the Pentagon by the hundreds of billions of dollars every single goddamn budget that can be used by the executive for whatever the hell they want. And the court injunction, of course, was lifted on that. These people, by and large, are illegal immigrants. They are not migrating to the U.S. just temporarily for work. They're not seeking a visa. They're not asylum seekers. They're not fleeing any persecution. They are simply illegally in the United States, having walked across the border because it's not guarded. Esteban Ocasio, do you have a favorite tea? Mine is London Fog. I like chamomile. Sparky, Pompeo kept Trump from pardoning Assange. He's a freelance John Bolton. Pompeo and his protege, Gina Haspel, helped to engineer Trump's 2020 loss. Agreed. Did you know gaming is weird? Why are men more likely to kill themselves compared to women? Because men are more likely to be in a work environment. They're more likely to have employment. Women are more likely to stay at home. When you have to get up at 7 o'clock in the morning and chug down some coffee and then go and deal with your shitty boss, I can imagine when some men hit midlife and they're like, well, I had all these hopes and dreams as a kid. Now they're all dead because I'm old and retarded. I can imagine some of them off themselves. The rest of them buy a sports car on credit and then have an affair, and then they do the same thing. They just ran themselves into bankruptcy first before they decided to chug that extra bottle and slip off into the void. Odin Andrews, why are you such a Zio shill? Of course I'd go for Rand despite his tiny hat wearing compared to his father. You are too smart to be Israel first. What are your views of Adam Green and Owen Benjamin? Well, it's very interesting that you asked me a question after opening up with that particular barrage. To be clear, I have no problem with the nation of Israel. Never have. I do oppose the settlement system. I have a problem with that because it looks like warmongering and slavery to me. That being said, I notice that there are some people out there critical of me that don't talk about literally any other issue other than Israel. And I mean, it's sort of like watching a leftoid who is obsessed with genitals. Honestly, it's about the same. Mitch James, are you ever going to move back to the U.S.? Yeah, I can live on both continents. That's the glory of it. Dan Malone, 53, pass a law. All illegals must be sent to gated communities. Yeah, I mean, they have the money to take care of them. I don't see a problem with it. Send it to the politicians' homes. You're so generous with taxpayer money. Why don't you open your wallets for change? Sparky, migrants probably thought they could get jobs picking grapes on Martha's Vineyard. Yeah, these people already have their indentured servants there. Why don't you just swap them out for people who you don't have to pay them as much because they're illegal? They're looking a gift horse in the mouth. DeSantis was trying to save them money. Hands are blazing red. Potential for a civil war? Yay or nay? Nay. No, I don't think there will be a civil war. Battle Elf, illegal taco kisses. Joe Biden refers to Hispanic people as being basically tacos. which was crazy. Didn't get much coverage by the legacy media, you'll notice. Meanwhile, Trump and his Trump Tower Cinco de Mayo taco bowl, that was front page news for the better part of a week about how terribly bigoted he was. A crafty Huragok, do you think we will hold our ground in PP Africa? It is easy to be on the offensive. It is hard to be on the defensive. Yeah, we've overrun an enormous chunk of the continent. And it's kind of out of the way, so nobody really competes for it. By the way, how many fucking people are watching right now? Yeah, we got 4,000 live viewers. To those of you on YouTube, please do take the referral link that is in the top of chat as well as in the description. Join me on Rumble. We're still in a friendly competition with InfoWars to see who can get to 110,000 subscribers first. We hit 109,000 this morning and we're still soaring upward. We are closing the gap. We're getting close. We're getting closer as the finish line approaches us both, and we have more wind behind our sails. So please do help. Clankdom appreciates it. Darun Albane. Do not know why lost Bitcoin cannot be recovered. Give a 5-year notice that the coin needs to do a ping movement. All coins not responding, reissue. Yeah, that's the other thing. Some Bitcoin is unrecoverable. So the number technically over time, as long as people store it in a potentially encrypted medium and lose the password, there's going to be less and less of it. People's stupidity will drive Bitcoin higher potentially. That's very interesting concept, by the way. Not a banned account. Why haven't we arrested MAGA politicians yet? Yeah, I know. They're trying to go after, the fuck is his name there? The one that looks like Matt Gaetz. That's who I'm thinking of. Westfield 90. Newsom wants DOJ to arrest DeSantis and Abbott, but nothing about the laws broken by the migrants. The hypocrisy is staggering, but no consequences for the left. Oh, they're going to gain an electoral consequence because people see the NIMBYism. Calvin 75. Your shortfall on precious metals is not unhooking your mind from the basing the value off of fiat. Fiat is good in theory, bad in practice. DB. Hey, Sticks. Did you hear about what happened to Tomi Lahren? At first, I didn't believe Tim Pool about Civil War, but now I'm starting to wonder. No, I didn't. Somebody messaged me on Twitter. Robert Tucker sent $2. No comment, thank you. Westfield 90. Predictions on Musk v. Twitter. Musk wins. He either obtains the company for far less than the $44 billion, or he successfully backs out of the deal. To be clear, a loss for him is he pays $1 billion to absolutely crush Twitter. They know this, and this is why a settlement is the most likely outcome. Stephen 13. Charlie Crist has a running mate who supported Castro. Another good reason why he'll lose in Florida. The Grizzly, building some zombie minis for D&D. What's your favorite Halloween monster? I'm Team Vampire, mostly. Aliza, right now. In the Mises Caucus, you must be familiar with Scott Horton. I think he is a force of negativity who twists the truth to a following that is not familiar with the issues he discusses. I like the Mises Caucus. It's a improvement on what was there before. Esteban Ocasio. Do you think someone like Bush will ever be held accountable for his war crimes on his war on terror? No, unfortunately. He will die a free man, which is more than he deserves. He should be in Gitmo right now. Purple Alien. Give treats to the cat for doing cat things during the live stream. She gets her treats every morning. She doesn't need to get even chunkier. She's a fine kitty cat. Odin Andrews. You didn't answer my question on Adam Green or Owen Benjamin. Well, I hadn't heard of Adam Green, and I have no problem with Owen Benjamin. I think I've subscribed to him, have occasionally watched his material, but I'm not like a super fan or anything. I find that mostly I create content as opposed to absorbing it, because as I explained the other day, most of the content that I watch online isn't even political. I have to go through the news for live streams and video ideas and stuff. Ultimately, though, I'd rather watch like an old 70s documentary on Loch Ness or music videos or something. Jared Pierce, you'd gain a ton of watchers on Rumble if they'd fix the Android app. No chat, no donation tab. Yeah, I know that there are still some lingering issues there. Battle Elf, I can't resist your grifter cap. By the way, nominated for a Grifty Award, grifties.com. Robert Tucker sent $2 without a comment. Thank you. PM Trudeau on Rumble. Sticks, did you hear about the according to Trudeau trend on Twitter? A bunch of regular people posting how Trudeau considers them extremists because they didn't get the poke. Yeah, Trudeau is one crazy motherfucker. Probably end his career in ignominious demise. Next news story. Trump's surprise breakthrough with Hispanic voters could spell doom for Democrats. Yes, indeed. Very interesting. Trump, supposedly the orange Hitler, mango Mussolini, all of the different diatribe about him. Bigoted, impotent, pathetic, also capable of staging a coup, and that was barely avoided. Donald Trump considerably increased the Hispanic voting trend towards the GOP. This is a trend that's been up and down for years. I think we're beginning to see a shift in the paradigm right now, and it's based on economics, and it's based on where Hispanic voters tend to be. Imagine you're a third-gen Hispanic immigrant. So your grandparents came from Mexico, Paraguay, whatever. And your grandparents worked hard, working class, they built a future, then they invested, their kids went to college, one of them started a business, maybe they do, they have a restaurant, maybe they have a hair salon, maybe they invested heavily, they're now millionaires or something. Now their kids are being born, and that really is the timeline. We're going on fourth gen now, third gen tends to be dominant in the younger voting base. These people do not want the entire border community overrun by any outsiders. They have loyalty to the United States because they were born and raised in the United States. They have nothing in common with their homeland. Some of them have never even visited their so-called homeland. And I told liberals about this years ago, and I said, you're really screwing the pooch. You're going to end up losing your dominance with some of these voting blocks. Hispanics will lead the way, Asian voters potentially. We see some shift now in black voters as well. That's begun shifting towards the GOP because of economic issues. You haven't delivered on any of your promises. You're just fucking up their communities. That's number one. And I've told for years now the demographics are destiny right wing, the same thing, which is that you presume that somebody's grandparents came from Venezuela, ergo that person has loyalty to Venezuela. We have not historically seen this happen with any other voting bloc within the United States. Italian voters, Irish voters, again, underclass, minority, underprivileged, servitude in some cases. Basically, the Irish were half enslaved at the time. They've come into the United States. These voting blocs are no longer rock-ribbed Democrats. They no longer follow the same traditional liberal ethos because they're no longer an immigrant group. They're a native group. And this is what nobody gets. Year after year and age after age, they always think that this time it's going to be different. And so you get one side engaging in nativism, and you get the other side trying to mop up the remnant, trying to get those votes. They're not because they want to help anyone who immigrated. The Democrats don't give a fucking shit about some Mexican person. They just want their vote. They want their money. They want them to gobble down some welfare and keep voting Democrat because it's a good way to buy votes. And it's not working. And that's because they've gained too much wealth. There was a boom all along the border. A lot of those communities have grown very large. And increasingly, you have suburbs and barbecues and gun-toting and cowboy hats instead of the Mexican flag. I bet if I go down to the Rio Grande Valley today, it'll look a lot different than it was when I was there back in 2008. I bet it looks a little bit different. But the Democrats don't want to understand that. Neither, by the way, do the nativistic Republicans. Darun Albain, gold, the original Bitcoin. People know roughly how much gold has been mined through history. Gold is fun. I always preferred silver, though. I just think that gold has a corrupting influence on its surroundings. I think that silver is better. Sparky, before JFK, over half of blacks were Republican. Yeah, that's dates to the Southern strategy, Goldwater-Nixon era, basically. There was no flipping of the parties, but certain demographics did flip at the time. Battle Elf, no gods, no masters. Michael Cricklow, would you try paniki, bat stew? If I knew that the bat had been farmed and wasn't taken from a cave somewhere and potentially has Ebola or some shit, yeah, I'd try bat stew. I'll try anything if I can vouch for the source of the ingredients. That's why I prefer garden fresh things over any others. I know that nobody shit all over their hands and then picked my lettuce. I know that nobody, there were no weird animals with rabies or something drooling all over the tomatoes. I think that it's superior at the end of the day. Yeah. Hey, Styx, it's time for you to create a Styx coin in silver. I have had serious suggestions by people claiming that I should create a cryptocurrency. And I don't want to do that because it would be like the ultimate grift. Ultimately, at the end of the day, Bitcoin and Ethereum are the big dogs, and there are some other stable assets that are involved with cryptocurrency. Whether or not the government manages to create a centralized crypto, I don't think will stop the concept of digital currency and the interchangeability. It's just going to be more regulated, which means a lot more buying in from banks and businesses. The Sinister Siblings, you and me both, silver for the win. Nogard Codesmith, silver is good. I got 30 pieces of it for this SC. Yeah, client coin. Next news story. The U.S. can't get cocky about Putin now. And this is an NBC News article. Most of it is bullshit. Nobody really gives a fucking shit about the article. It's from NBC News. Nobody's paying attention other than me anyway. They'll get more clicks even on the goddamn archived link just from people following through than they'd get on their native audience probably. Here's the problem, and I pointed this out today in my New Tech exclusive. They're using the term axis of evil to describe Russia and some of its diplomatic and economic actions right now. Where have we heard this before? It was from George W. Bush prior to the invasion of Iraq. This is warmongering. It's horseshit. Using the term axis of evil is definitely for a reason. It's not. They didn't choose that term out of their asshole. They didn't choose it at random. They're trying to whip up millennial voters who apparently have become a bunch of goddamn sellout warmongers, not like anything that I saw 10 years ago. They become a bunch of sellouts, a bunch of goddamn hipsters. They're entering their 30s now, and they're like, well, I don't know, the government's going to try to protect me from the evil Ruskies. I better give them some more tax money because that clearly worked the last time around. The idea posited in this article, though, is even more strange. Russia and North Korea and China, which are, they're not an axis of evil, but it's an axis of authoritarian states, and Iran, of course, are being lumped in with Turkey and Hungary. And I pointed out, Hungary is the example of a proper representative system. The people voted for Orban. They voted for populism and or, to some degree, nativistic sentiment. What, are you going to ignore the will of the people of Hungary over Hungarian politics because you don't think that it's right? Like, outsiders should be deciding for them. And as far as Turkey goes, Erdogan is a power-mad, egomaniacal, crazy lunatic. Erdogan is not a good person. He's taking Turkey backwards. He's fucked the economy. He's making it more militaristic. You've got a rise in hyper-religious sentiment in Turkey. It's getting further and further away from Ataturk's reforms. That's true. But it's not on the same order as North Korea. Holy goddamn Christ. Let me know when Erdogan starts setting up a bunch of gulags for political dissidents. Things there are not necessarily the greatest that they could be. And if Erdogan were to drown in the Aegean tomorrow, it'd be a better country, certainly. But that doesn't make them like North Korea. It does not make them like China, literally a communist nation. It's apples to oranges. Yeah, they're both fruit, but they're not the same kind. And putting Hungary in there is like apples to a pile of goddamn rocks. There is no similarity whatsoever. Hungary is not ultimately a severely authoritarian state. Yes, they go against the LGBTQ sort of thing. In other words, they're taking up a line culturally that was exceptionally common all over Europe 20 years ago. So why would this be considered to be massively out of order? That's what I would ask. And again, as someone, I support gay rights, but why would that traditionalism be that particularly different from the norm that it was 20 years ago? It's not. It's the same thing. It's sort of like when we look at the MAGA movement, MAGA populism. It's basically first-term Ronald Reagan. It's not ancient history. We're talking about the first half of the 1980s. There are plenty of people alive today that remember that particular period of time. Nostalgia for those good old days is part of the reason why MAGA succeeded. What makes that? Is that similar to the Iranians or something? It's like I see that picture posted all the time, and there's that chick with the AR-15 holding the Bible. And then they compare it to one of the Taliban brides holding an AK-47 in the Quran. And I point out that it's apples to oranges. One of these people is probably not intending to use that weapon for any offensive purpose because that's not the point. The other is a religious zealot that does intend to kill infidels. And that's just the long and short of it. They're a member of Al-Qaeda. So that's sort of the point, just to be clear. Jay Reeds, I know you advocate for alt tech, but I hear from people that we should worry about computers being compromised at a hardware level for free speech, not at a software level like websites. Thoughts? I haven't seen any compromising of the new tech sites. I have seen that on YouTube and on Twitter, like when political accounts get taken over by an angry staffer. Those things have happened. Battle Elf, Bat Soup, Man and Monkey, Pox Troon. Texas Joe sent $9.99. No comment, thank you. Esteban Ocasio, thoughts about ayahuasca for spiritual ceremonies. I brewed it once. It was I didn't keep it in long enough, and so I only got audio hallucinations. And therefore, it wasn't very fulfilling. I think that you should just stick to Salvia Divinorum because it's easier. Not a banned account. Do demons such as Stolas desire shrines to them? No. The concept of worshipfulness is meaningless. When you have an entity that is more powerful, why the hell would they want something lesser than themselves to even regard them other than helping them to do things that they may not physically be able to do? It's a little tit for tat. It's some reciprocity. They understand the concept. Sparky, India and Brazil are solidly with Russia. False. India has repudiated the concept of Russia's war as of literally yesterday. As for Brazil, kind of waffling around a little bit. Next story, Bill Maher. Being woke is like a magic moral time machine. In today's world, when truth conflicts with narrative, it's the truth that has to apologize. Bill Maher, once again getting pounded by his fellow liberals. He's a long-term Democratic Party insider. He's a long-term NPR-style liberal, so he's like Brian Griffin, only with more of a sense of humor. He's not a leftoid, not by modern standards. But he keeps getting himself into situations where he's predominantly being attacked by fellow Dem partisan liberals. And the right wing confusingly takes the bait by the way as well and says, whoa, Bill Maher is right. Haha, what a great guy. And then they don't know anything about him. Like they don't listen to Bill Maher or anything like that. Sort of like with Jimmy Dore. Jimmy Dore is more left wing than Bill Maher is. But I see conservatives applauding him and saying, well, this dude seems to have a good head on his shoulders, because they watched one viral video clip that they were shown about him saying something that wasn't anti-gun or wasn't in favor of EVs or something like that. I love that because literally everyone misinterprets everything that's said by these people. If you are part of a generally partisan ideological movement, so Maher, he is a liberal, he is a Democrat, and you deviate in any goddamn way from the very puristic, very, very focused central line of the party or of its adherents, you get castigated and cast aside. And meanwhile, everyone else watching that misinterprets it as though they're going to convert you to becoming, I don't know, a right-wing Republican. I suppose there are people that want Bill Maher to go down that path. I've had this happen to me, by the way. And I don't have exactly the audience of someone like Bill Maher. Or, well, actually, we're close to Jimmy Dore on Rumble, but give it time. Clanctum shall rise. You'll get people who'll say, like, look, I saw you getting criticized by these leftoids. Don't you think it's about time to embrace your roots as being an extreme tradcon, traditionalist Christian, or something like that? It happens with the left. I've had leftoids try to convert me and say, well, you've got it all wrong about communism. And look, you get trolled on BitChute comment areas by people who are Nazis. And it's gotten goddamn hilarious, by the way. I love every goddamn minute of my job. Donovan Jeremiah Jerry sent $4.99 without a comment. Thank you very much. Sparky, India is indeed with Russia. Don't be fooled. In the economic sense, they're tied. There will be problems in BRICS over the next half decade, though. India is growing faster than China, has greater military ambitions than it did 10 years ago. And they're starting to put on their big boy pants and think, why the fuck are we in the union here where we're playing second fiddle to the Chinese? We're rich. We got a huge population, huge amount of industry, and the West would love to switch its investment from China to another country anyway, so why don't we decide to go westward ho? I think that's what's going to happen. India will lean west, in my opinion, especially if Trump is reelected. Not a banned account. Chances of invasion on U.S. mainland in our lifetime. Virtually zero as long as we remain well-armed. Aliza, right now. Your comment on settlements was framed with words, it looks like a system. Please communicate with settlers and learn more about what the system really is, not the fake news version. Okay. DB, a mob crashed Tommy's speech she was having in a New Mexico college. At this rate, college is looking more and more worthless by the year. It has been for some years unless you intend to go for a master's or a PhD. Or some sort of tech ed sort of degree that you can get in a literal Tech ed setting. I don't know. If I could go back, I wouldn't have bothered going to college. Maybe to a community college or something like that. Roy Rat made rattlesnake for the first time last night with harissa spice seasoning over rice. It wasn't bad, but I'm not going rattlesnake hunting for food anytime soon. Survival food for sure, though. Yeah, I've always wanted to try snake. Bet it tastes like chicken, like everything else. 10 Jake 10, Sticks, you the man. Been listening to you for years. Long overdue, few bucks for energy drink fund. Learning to garden and can food. What's your take on Ron Johnson from Wisconsin? Clank on, brother. I'll look into that particular political race. I don't have any thoughts at this time, unfortunately. I have to pay attention to more races. I got to branch out a little bit more. Bill Maher still thinks Trump is a Russian agent. Yeah, exactly. But then you've got conservatives congratulating him for his point, and then you've got liberals castigating him as though he spoke out of turn. That's the point. That's the funny part. Meisner Flux. Hungary suffered from being caught between powers in World War II. Centuries of Turkish enslavement and so on. They deserve to focus on their people instead of the external dictates of the EU and commies. Agreed. There should be a looser arrangement in Europe allowing free movement for the people that are actually full members of the member states, including a buy economy with a common currency, but in which the regulatory structure has been devolved largely back to the individual countries. Sort of a confederation instead of the current US ripoff that the EU is. Shaggy Rogers, which do you think is more important, positive or negative rights? I would say both. Cable Dude, this pixel thing is actually fun. Yes, but it got too complex. It's just too much for me. I have to answer questions at all hours from a dozen different factions on the server saying, please help us. And I noticed that none of them ever really offered help other than the Greeks. They were the only ones helping us. Everyone else wanted us to help them. Dark World XL. Sticks, if you looked at alternative scientific theories like the electric universe or the book Virus Mania's views on viruses? No, but I probably should. I've only got so much time in the day. I finished the illustrations for a couple new literary works today, actually, this morning. Doc Holliday, Lindsey Graham seems to be trying to sabotage the midterms by continuing to talk about a federal mandate on abortion. Thoughts? I covered that a couple days ago, and I would agree. I think that's the attempt. Whether or not it works, actually, though, is an entirely different story based on the ramifications of the ban, which is really a limitation. The landlord harassment channel creeps me out to see all self-checkouts at Walmart. Yeah, I don't use self-checkouts. Fuck that shit. If you're not going to bag my groceries up, at the very least, ring me out. Next news story, covered Bill Maher. How memes led to an insurrection. This is by The Atlantic. They're definitely in competition with Vox and Reuters and a few others for stupidity of the year at this point. Or the decade, depending. A president who understood the power of memes was able to send thousands of people into battle against democracy itself. And they've got by Joan Donovan, Emily Dreyfus, and Brian Friedberg. We're storming the Capitol. It's a revolution. A woman who identified herself only as Elizabeth from Knoxville, Tennessee, told a reporter outside the U.S. Capitol on January 6, 2021. She had a blue Trump flag slung across her neck like a cape. Police had just maced her in the face, she recounted through tears. Yeah, okay, wonderful, whatever. When you go through this, you will find that it's effectively about the idea that Donald Trump sort of, he knows how to hypnotize people. So he's like Scott Adams on steroids, I suppose. He hypnotized people using frog memes, and he managed to almost overthrow the U.S. government. But that's not really what happened now, is it? You had a fiery but mostly peaceful protest that he never encouraged himself at all. That got out of hand, and one person was killed. They happened to be a protester, not a cop. And that's basically it. What really ends up happening with political memes is that they're organic. And this is why the right wing is better at memeing than the left. It's more organic, it's more decentralized, and it's not just a pile of goddamn word salad. It's not really a meme of memes that the left can't meme. That's the odd juxtaposition here. Leftoids simply have a more centralistic manner of thinking, and so they tend to be more poor at encapsulating meanings in a pithy manner, in a terse manner. A few words, 2 words, maybe a sentence, maybe 2. Instead, they have 5 paragraphs of meaningful material. It's like reading a goddamn book next to an image that you can barely see, and this is the meme. So they take the original encapsulation that usually a right-winger or a libertarian has made because they have that decentralized talent base, and then they add a bunch of text to it. And for some reason, they think that improves upon it and makes it funny. The problem is if you've chosen the meme, I'll say this to the left. If you chose the meme because you found it funny, it's already successful. You're not improving upon it because you can. It's probably irreducible. You inevitably make a weaker meme by adding any text at all. Unless it's ironic. People on the left tend to have less of a sense of irony. So it's a real big problem. But there was no insurrection on that day, on January 6th. It didn't exist. MFA, Sticks, pick up a 10-pack of black teas from Target. It will change your life. It costs nothing, and I wear it daily. Sparky, like Scott Adams, Trump depends on MSM too much. Oh, you had another one, too, by Sparky. Trump will need to actually drain the swamp this time for countries to actually pull away from BRICS. Otherwise, they won't believe he'll MAGA. I agree with you. He needs to put in more effort on that front. Pamela Mail, and MAGAs have better sharp wit. They understand irony. Yeah, exactly. There's a tendency to. Like, I've definitely talked to people, especially on the evangelical, more religious side of MAGA, that things go over their heads a little bit. Like, I've been, sarcastic before and made points that could be construed as leftoid points on Twitter. And there have been a handful of instances in which people who clearly align with me politically call me out and call me a commie or something like that. I'm like, dude, fucking understand what sarcasm is, please. It happens. 69, a drummer, says he needs to get rid of Jared Kushner. Yeah, having Jared Kushner at an arm's length would probably be a good choice for a future Trump second term. That would be a good idea. He's just a lightning rod for criticism anyway after the Saudi deal, so, it's a toxic. Fuster Cluck, do you have any thoughts on the impending pole flip? We are experiencing weakening magnetic fields resulting in mass crop failures and increased cancers. No, that's not actually the case. The pole moves all the time. The reason why cancer rates are up is probably due to the fact that you have more and more human activity and you have microplastics everywhere. People are constantly absorbing microplastic particles and other contaminants on a daily basis. And believe it or not, that can be harmful to your health. As far as crop failures, a lot of it's due to the wonky weather that happens to be coincidentally hitting fertile areas at the same time. And I do genuinely mean coincidental. It's the result of sporadic weather patterns that randomize themselves over time. In other words, according to science, it's due to human activity and climate change. Well, no, I will not digress into that particular subject. By the way, I would like to make an announcement. To all of you on YouTube, again, please do take the link at the top of chat or in the description and join me on Rumble. I live stream there every day. I make new tech exclusives. They're there as well. I would also like to make another announcement. I will begin doing a few Rumble exclusive live streams. And to those of you on Rumble, you're already there, so just share the channel out. Sticks, Hex, and Hammer is going to be doing a few exclusives on rumble.com. I've decided to do that as of this morning. I was going to do one today, but there's a whole bunch of shit going on right now. Last night was not as good a night as the last few weeks have been as far as the infant sleeping cycle. And so there are a few things we have to do today. But I will be doing live streams on Rumble that are exclusive to the platform. They will not be on YouTube. Can't wait to have some frank discussions about certain political and medical topics. I think that will be interesting. There are some people out there that probably don't even know my true views on that because, I'm not allowed to say them on YouTube. Mojo Hansen, have you seen Liberal Hive Mind? He watches you for sure. Yes, I have. John Hoyle, even your cat gets more views than Biden. Yeah, he definitely would struggle to get 3,400 people on YouTube. It's 1,200 on Rumble right now. Mitch James, what can you do to counter microplastics, etc.? I don't know, unfortunately, that there's anything that you can do about it. Apparently, it's even in the rainwater. I suppose filtering your water heavily, being in a very rural area, far away from any, rivers or streams or anything like that, the soil might not be contaminated. It's very sad, too, because nobody gave their consent, and it's a violation of the NAP, as well as destroying nature. Jesse Miller at the Crow's Nest. Doesn't Rumble charge to stream on their platform? And how much do they charge? I'd like to move over. They do, although I do think there is free streaming. If you have enough subscribers, I'm not sure. It's not that much. I can't remember how much I'm paying per month. I've got an upgraded plan for obvious reasons, but it's reasonable, certainly. I'm willing to pay it. Aquafan, by the way, no more super chats, please. We're going up towards an hour and 20 minutes, so I do have to cut it off at some point. I've got other things I have to do today. Aquafan, right-wing libertarian here. I love details, but am not good at being concise. I usually let others make the political memes. I'll just share them. When I try, they're full of great info, but bloated. I've invented some memes before that did the rounds that probably I shouldn't publicize which memes they are because they might be considered a little bit politically incorrect. And nobody knows that I made them. And I find this very, very funny. It's pretty good. Yes, Mad Mike. Kyle Lovelace. I do realize we are already in a U.S. recession, but now there's a looming global recession. So not just the U.S., but a spiraling that happens because different countries impact one another through trade, imports, exports, costs, etc. It will get messy. That is, by the way, official financial advice. Make sure that you have some extra food on hand. The Crafty Huraga, can you give us an update when you do a Rumble live stream on YouTube? Yeah, I will. I'll announce it beforehand. And I don't know how many people will actually tune in. I'm not going to do it today also because it's a weekend. I realize that because I'm going fairly early Eastern time, which is mid-afternoon my time, fewer people show up. On the weekdays, there's an extra 1,000, 1,500 people on the live streams because, of course, it's the morning show. What do you not want to do on a Sunday morning? Wake up early. I know that I'm kneecapping myself, but that's all good. Yes, that's another thing AM points out. Rumble does take considerably less from the Rumble rants than YouTube does from Super Chats. So if you are donating on Rumble, you are giving me a bigger cut of that money. I don't begrudge YouTube taking a cut because live streaming, in order to host that, they do have to pay money as well. And it's not a problem. It is easy to use. But it is a much lower margin on Rumble. It's 20 as opposed to 30%. Anyway, I'm going to go offline here so that I can do other things. Thank you for clanking along today, by the way. Chug out some more coffee later, maybe. It's good shit. It got cold, but that's okay. Now it's iced coffee. That's about all. Peace out.